Hi everybody, it's Cal here. Thanks for joining me this evening. If you want to just ask me any questions at any time, Mark's here to help as well when we go through the book, but there's a few things that I actually want to do first. Now, I said in our last class with the wallet book, I finally finished mine, here you go, that I would do a draw for my version here. So what I've done is I've actually put everybody's names who made one of the little books into my little beautiful pink thing here, including Natalie. I didn't forget you, Natalie, even though it was a bit of a last minute one. And what I'm going to do is ask my lovely husband to draw out a name. So, Mark, would you mind? Yeah, today would be nice. Okay.
Drum roll. Steph Morley.
Oh, Steph Morley, congratulations. I think I've got your address somewhere, so I'll get that, thank you dear, into the post to you as soon as possible. But before we get started on our HobbyCraft mini book tonight, I just want to talk to you about the next project that we're going to do. Now, I designed a really simple little folio mini book a little while ago, and this is what we're going to be doing next. Now, I've used Graphic 45 Lost in Paradise papers, so it's quite fancy, so don't worry, you don't have to use the same papers at all, but I'm going to show you what I've done. So this is the book, here we go. As you can see on the cover here, what I've done is I've done lots and lots and lots of fussy cutting, but I'm going to turn the camera around now so that I can show you sort of a heads-on view, which might be a bit easier. So 2 seconds and I will just get that sorted. You're going to get another view of my ceiling now, which I know you love so much. Right, there we go. Hopefully that's going to work. I think I just need to just move this up a bit. Hang on guys, sorry about this. I had it all set up beautifully before and now I've been faffing around and messed it all up. So here's the mini book that I told you about. This is a little folio, and this is what we're going to be making once we finish the HobbyCraft book. On the front cover I've really just done lots of fussy cutting and layering up, and then it folds out into 3 parts. I'll just move my papers for later. So on this side we've got a little pocket with some photo mats in it. Our middle pocket just opens up with more photo mats in the middle. I quite like this way of doing pockets, so you might see quite a few of those in my work. And then this one is just a very simple, ordinary pocket. On this side we've got a long pocket, and it all folds up to give us that folio there. Now that will be our next project. I'll put some photos up later so that everybody can see. And what I did promise as well is a very, very, very brief look at the project after that, because my plan is this. Slowly I'm going to build you up to making books. That's my cunning plan. So some of you may have made this book before. It's one that I designed a few years ago, and it's called my Basic Beginners Mini. So I'm just going to show you very quickly. It's nowhere near finished, so you're only going to get a very, very quick sneak peek. There's shaker pockets and all sorts of things. I haven't decorated it up yet. Oh, good start. But I will show you more about that in due course. So that's what we're building up to. We're building up to proper books, and then after that I've got some more plans for some more books. So right, tonight we are going to get on and we are going to make our HobbyCraft mini book, which I have absolutely no idea where I've put it, no idea at all, which really isn't very good, to be honest, but still. 2 seconds, just let me get this up on the screen and then I will be able to see where we are. Right, there we go. So tonight the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cut out and we are going to score each of our pieces of paper. Now this is easily made with a sheet of A4 paper. I have slightly modified the sizes that I did on my original HobbyCraft book, which you can see the tutorial online on the HobbyCraft blog for. every time I make a book, I make it slightly differently, and I just kind of improve every time, but I just wanted my gusset to be just a little bit bigger, so that's what I've done. So listen carefully for the sizes of what we're going to be cutting, and particularly actually it's what we're going to be scoring. So what I need you to do is get your tools together. The first thing that we're going to do is we are going to do our cutting, and then we're going to do our scoring. Then we will start to put the book together and we will decorate it. If we don't finish it all tonight, because I really don't want to go on more than a couple of hours, say for instance, we can carry on Wednesday. You'll also probably heard me say before a few things that I've said previously about how you can get away and do these books without all the fancy tools maybe that I've got, because I've been making books for years and years and years. So, right, let's get on. So what I need you to do is get hold of your white card. I'm using white for a background, but you can really use any colours that you choose. I found this the other day when I was in HobbyCraft. Now I need to be honest with you from the outset here. I am on the 2019 HobbyCraft Papercraft design team, so you will see from time to time that I do things for HobbyCraft or I advertise HobbyCraft goods. I'll only tell you what I really, really love. There are a few things, to be honest, but I just wanted to mention these paper pads. I actually thought when I first saw them that they were A5, but they're A4, and they are really lovely. I love this bright one because it goes with the papers that I got, but it's quite decent sized, thick card. But look, it's got glitter. I did think about using that for the base of my book, but I decided in the end not to and just stick with the white, but I might well use that for some decoration later. So let us start with our book. The first thing that I want you to do is take one A4 sheet of card. Now it's important that this is A4 size, and I want you to put it to one side. That's the best bit of cutting we're going to do this evening. Then what I want you to do is I want you to take another piece of A4 and I want you to cut it at 3.5 by 5 inches. So I'm just going to measure this now. I am going to cut it at 3.5 inches by 5 inches. I've got the wrong glasses on, doesn't really help. 2 seconds. Okay, and we're just going to put that to one side for the moment. Then I want you to take another piece of A4 card and I want you to turn it so that it's landscape way. And I want you to cut at 4.5 inches. Once and then twice. So you've got 2 pieces of card that are 4.5 inches across by the width of an A4 sheet down. Okay, and I want you to get some of the card that we've got left over, these bits here, say for instance, if you take this piece, and I want you to cut 2 pieces that are 3 inches by 5 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to measure this first at 5 1/8, and then I'm going to cut it at 3 inches, and again at 3 inches. Now what we'll do next as well, we might as well cut our photo mats while we're here. So I want you to grab another piece of A4 and I want you to cut a photo mat at 4.5 by 3.25 inches. Let me just double check that size because I can't see that far. Yep, 3.25. So I'm just going to go 3.25 there. And I'm going to cut this 4.5. Okay, so that's quite a little photo mat. I want you to cut another one that is 7.5 by 3.25 inches. So that's 7.5 by 3.25 inches. I want you to cut another one that is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4 inches. So let's go 4 3/4 inches by 3 1/4 inches.
3 1/4.
We're going to grab another piece of card and we're going to go 4 3/4 inches by 7 inches. Then we're going to cut a final one, which is 7 inches by 7 3/4 inches. So look, that should fit on there. If it doesn't, oh, so close, perfect. There we go. That was luck rather than judgment. So that final one is 7 3/4 inches. Okay, so we've got some little bits of card left. We don't really need them. Oops. Keep them if you want to keep them, because you never know, they might be useful for other little photo mats or whatever, or we can just get rid of them. Okay, right, has everybody caught up? How are we doing? I've lost my mouse. Huh, never mind. Right, okay, so now we've got all of our pieces of card here. What we're going to do next is score them. So if you grab your scoreboard, if you don't have a scoreboard, what you can use is your ruler and a embossing tool, which I think is in my other bag at the moment. But you know the embossing tools that you get, the kind of like wooden or plastic, and then they've got the little sort of protrusions on the end with the little balls on. You can use that to score, or even, you know, a bone folder will do just as well. So if you just measure where your score marks need to be, and then just run your bone folder or embossing tool across, that should do the trick. Right, the first one, I want you to take this piece of A4 card, which we didn't cut at all. Now this is the one measurement that differs from the tutorial on the HobbyCraft blog. And what I want you to do is I want you to score on the long side, on the A4 side, at 1 7/8 of an inch. I know this is going to make Hannah very, very happy. So 1 7/8 of an inch, okay? I then want you to score on the same side at 2 1/4 inches. I want you to then move along, score on the same side at 7 1/2 inches. And our final score mark on this is at 7 7/8 of an inch. So whereas on my original design, this sort of space between these two score lines here and here was 1/4 of an inch, it's actually slightly better, I reckon, if it's that little bit bigger. So these are now 3/8 of an inch each. Okay, so put that to one side because we've scored that. Now I want you to take your piece of card that you've cut, which is 5 inches by 3 1/2 inches, which I'm guessing is that one. Yep. And I want you to score on the 5-inch side, that's the long side. I want you to score it at 1/2 an inch and 4 1/2 inches. Okay, then I want you to turn your piece of card by 90 degrees. So we're now going to be scoring on the 3 1/2 inch side, and I want you to score there at 1/2 an inch. So what we're going to end up with on this piece is basically a U shape with 2 little squares in the corners there. Okay. Now, the pieces that we cut from the other A4 sheet that are A4 across by 4.5 inches. I want you to score on the 4.5 inch side at 1/2 an inch and 3/4 of an inch. So what we've got here is our piece of paper, a piece of card, and it's basically got 1/2 an inch there, and then it's got 1/4 of an inch between those two score marks there. And I want you to do exactly the same on both pieces of card. So score on the 4.5 inch side at 1/2 an inch and at 3/4 of an inch. Okay. Then I want you to take the two pieces that we cut that are 3 inches by 5 1/8 of an inch. Of course, I've got mine all mixed up, which is a really good start to the evening. I think it's these ones. Yeah. So that's 3 inches by 5 1/8 of an inch. I want you to score on the 3 inch side, which is that way round. So the 3 inch goes at the top of our scoreboard. I want you to score at 1/2 an inch and 3/4 of an inch. So once again, we've got this little gusseted area here, and all will become clear very soon. Then I want you to do exactly the same on the other piece. So score that at 1/2 an inch and score that at 3/4 of an inch. Okay, that's actually the book scored, but we're going to have a look now at our photo mats. Now, most of them don't require any scoring, but 2 do. So this first photo mat, which is 4.5 by 3 and I can't even read my writing, hang on a minute, which is 4.5 by 3 1/4 inches. Near enough. Hang on. Right, so 3 1/4 by 4.5 inches. That's fine. We're going to put that to one side. We don't need to do any folding on that one. We've got one which is 7.5 by 3.5 inches. That's fine. We don't need to do any scoring on that one. We've got one that is 3 1/4 by 4 3/4 inches. That's fine. We don't need to do any scoring on that one. And we have one which is 4 3/4 by 7 inches. So there we go. We can see that that's 7 inches by 4 3/4 inches. And what I want you to do is score it at 3.5 inches on the 7 inch side. So 7 inch side at the top and 3.5 inches. I just want you to score that straight down the middle. Okay, and then our final photo mat, which is the very big one, which is 7 by 7 3/4 inches. I want you to score on the 7 inch side, so that's going to be that way round, I think. Yep. I want you to score at 3.5 inches on there as well.
What piece was that?
That's the final piece, which was 7 by 7 3/4 inches, and we're scoring it at 3.5 inches on the 7 inch side. Okay, so that's all the cutting and scoring done. So we can put our scoreboard to one side now, and also our trimmer for the time being. Now what we're going to do first is actually put our book together. So I want you to grab all the pieces that we've already cut and scored for the book. And at this point, if you want to, you can round your corners. So I've got a corner rounder here, and I'm going to take the 4 flaps that have got the 1/4 of an inch gusset. So not the actual book itself and not the pocket. And I'm just going to round those corners. Totally optional. I just sometimes think it gives this a bit of a nice finished edge. Okay. Right, so now we can actually put the book together. So I'm just going to find my mouse, which seems to have disappeared. And I'm just going to see how we're doing and whether or not everybody's catching up. Oh, hi Hannah. I didn't see if you were writing earlier, but I must admit when I was doing my 1/8 of an inch, I was actually thinking all about you. Right, now, because I haven't been watching any comments, is there anything that I really need to do now? Are there any comments or questions that I've completely missed because I was so engrossed in cutting my book out? Before we go on any further, how are we doing? Okay. Can't seem to scroll back through the comments for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. Right. Okay. Oh, every time. Right. Let's get on. So, this A4 piece, which we didn't cut at all, is actually the main body of our book. It's actually the cover of our book. So, as you can see, I have got score lines down here and here, which gives us a 3/8 of an inch gusset. I'm hoping you can see that. But what we've got to do now is fold it. So we're actually going to fold the book so it's got a wraparound cover. So on your score lines, if you fold it down like that, make sure you've got a really good crease. Use a bone folder if you want to. But don't forget that we've got to fold the gusset in as well. Okay, so what we've got here, if you can just see, is we've just folded that round so that we've got a U shape. And we're going to do exactly the same on the other side as well. So if you fold that, burnish it a bit. Okay, dead simple. So that's actually the cover of our book now. Now, the most important thing you have to decide at this point is which way round do you want your book to open, because it can go either. I'm left-handed, so I always have my books the wrong way round. But for me, I'm going to make it this way round so that this is how the book opens, like that. Okay, you might decide that you want it that way around, which is absolutely fine, not a problem at all. But it will come to make a difference, so you do need to decide that now. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to get these two longest pieces that we've cut. I've rounded my corners, but as you can see again, we've got this gusset here of 1/4 of an inch. And what I want you to do with each of those is I want you to fold it so that once again you've got this little U shape here, okay? And I want you to do that on both of the long pieces. So fold on your score lines, preferably not as badly as I've just done. And make sure that you've got that U shape there, okay? And I want you to do exactly the same on these other two smaller pieces that you've got here. Okay, the next bit we have to do is our pocket, which is this piece here where we've scored in the U shape and we've got these little square bits here. Now, I did mention last time that we made the books that when I miter my corners, I mitered them at a bit of a strange angle because I think it sits better. So what I want you to do is just take your scissors. I want you to snip up to where those two score lines intersect. And then I want you to take your scissors and I want you to, instead of going straight across like that, I want you to just angle it slightly so that you're not getting that straight line across there. Okay? And I want you to do that on both sides. Okay? So what you've got here is you've mitered the corners where the score lines intersect, and what we're going to do now is we're going to fold those into a pocket, and this is exactly like the pocket that we made on our last little book. And then I want you to burnish those really, really well. So we've got a really good sharp crease. Now, if you want to, one of the things that you can do at this stage is to make I don't know what they're called technically, but one of those little finger holes that you can put in the front of a pocket. And I use a simple circle punch. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to work out exactly where halfway on my pocket is. Now, this should be a 4-inch pocket, just under. So I'm going to mark that there at 2 inches. I'm going to take my circle punch, I'm going to line it up about there, and punch, so that I've got a little sort of finger spacer hole thing, I don't know what they're called, they've probably got a technical name, in my pocket. Okay, right, and now we are ready to stick. So you've decided which way round you want your book to be. Mine's going to open that way round. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add these long pieces, okay? So I'm going to put some glue on the flap there, and I'm going to stick it to my book. Now, before you stick it, I want you to very carefully look at where your gusset is there, and also where your gusset is on your book. And when you glue it, what I want you to do is I want you to glue it to your book so you've got... And Maggie's going to start giggling now because I'm going to go on about flaps and gussets. Well, it can't be helped. So you've got your flap, then you've got your gusset, you've got your other gusset. And what we're going to do is we're going to put glue down there. We're going to fold that, and we're going to make sure that it fits exactly there, and we're going to glue it down. Now, little tip for you. When you're gluing, glue ever so slightly away from this fold here. If you get it up too close, the book will never, never, never close properly. So I want you to leave just a minuscule gap at the side of that score mark that you've made there when you glue it. So I'm just going to glue mine down now. Let's get some glue. You can use double-sided tape if you've made books with me before. This worked 5 minutes ago. You'll know that I do tend to favour wet glue because I don't like it when things come apart. This literally worked 5 minutes ago. Need a pin. Have you got a pin or a piece of wire? No, it's too thick. Hold on. I tied it up. Fatal. Top. Right. So, a little bit of glue. On the edge of that flap, and now I'm going to glue it to the right hand side of my second score line. So I've got the edge of my book, I've got a score line here, I've got 3/8 of an inch here, and I've got a second score line here, and this is just going to go just to the edge of that second score line, and I'm going to make sure that it all lines up. I'm going to move it just so it's slightly away from the score line. And I'm going to glue that down. Okay. If you open up that flap, just make sure that it's glued there as well. And then we're going to take our second long flap, and we're going to do exactly the same, but this one is going to go to the left of that second score line. So we've got the flap here, we've got a score line, then we've got 3/8 of an inch gusset, and then we've got a second score line, and that is where we are going to attach our second flap. Maggie, stop sniggering, I can hear you from here. Okay. So that's going to attach just inside that score line. Okay. What sort of cocktail, Julie? Hi Claire, yes I do have a YouTube channel, if it's just under my name, Cal Summers actually, so if you have a look through this group you'll find links to the previous ones, but anybody who wants to have a look at any other videos that I've got up there, it's just a case of searching for Cal Summers. You'll see my business logo, which is my name, funnily enough. Underneath it says Paper Scissors Story. Gosh, what a surprise. And it's on a kind of like a watercolour blue and pink background, so that would be me. So just have a look on there. Okay, right, so now we've got those two sorted, what we're going to do now is we're going to add these two, and these go at the bottom and at the top. Okay, so I want you to put a little bit of glue onto your flap again, and I want you to attach that between the score lines. I wish, actually I should have done this in a different way and put some colour on this so you could have seen. But what we're doing here is that we're actually attaching to the very, very bottom of the book. You can see here. So this is the back of the book. We're attaching to the very, very bottom and in between these two flaps here. Okay, because what we're going to have at the end is, once I've got that up, we're going to have a space like this where we can actually put our photo mats, and there's actually going to be room for them. So that's what we're making. We're actually making a little tiny box to go into our mini book. So we're going to take the last one, a little bit of glue, and we're going to attach that at the top of the book, in between those score lines. Make sure that it's stuck down really well. Oh, Claire, do you know what? Just watching what everybody's been making, it's just been such an amazing thing for me just to see how, you know, what started off as a really simple little book has just been taken by everybody and just made to be their own. And I have to say that I've been teaching for just over 3 years now, and I'm only just getting into sort of like online classes, but I have been in awe of what people have been making, and I honestly don't think that there has been a better feeling for me just looking to see what people have been making. It is just, it's the best feeling ever, it really is. Oh, apart from the feeling when my husband bought me these. That was a pretty good feeling too. Anyway, right, so we've now put in that little sort of box in our book. So here we go. We've got the book here. Mine opens that way, which of course is probably, no, that will be the right way around to you. And we've got that little place here, which we're going to put some of our photo mats into. And now the final bit that we've got is our pocket, which we are going to attach to, if you're doing your book the same way round as me, it is going to attach to the right hand side of this little box. So And I've just realised that because I changed the size of the gussets, I didn't change the size of the pocket. So we might have to rethink that a little bit. Hold on. Just chuck that one away for a minute. Right. We need to cut out another pocket. And I want you to cut that at... Hold on, because I'm working on the fly here. I want you to cut out another pocket at 4 inches. So hold on, it's going to be 4 inches. I will write down all of these measurements, these new measurements, and pop them up in the group later so that everybody's got them. So it's going to be 4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. I didn't think that through. Okay, so this is going to be the pocket. So it's 4 inches by 4 3/4 inches. And what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly score that at 1/2 inch. This is on the 4 3/4 inch side, so we're going to score at 1/2 inch, and we are going to score at 4 1/4 inches. We're then going to turn that round, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch on the 4 inch side. Let me just double check this because that didn't sound right. Nope, that's right. Okay, happy with that. My apologies. Didn't think that through when I was improving my book. So what we've got now is our pocket. As I mentioned, we're going to have our score lines which make it into a U shape, and we've got those little squares down there. And what I want you to do now is I want you to miter those corners. So cut up to the where the score lines intersect, and just move your pair of scissors so that you're not cutting straight across. Okay, and then I want you to fold and burnish. I'm just going to work out where the middle of this is. So this pocket is now 3 3/4 inch. Oh crikey, what's half of 3 3/4? 1 1/2 and a bit. Yeah, 1 1/2 and a bit. 2A? You what?
2 3/8.
No.
1 3/4, 1 1/2, 1. Oh, I don't know.
So hang on. Half of 3 is 1 1/2. 1 3/4. Right. 1 7/8 of an inch. There you go. 1 7/8 of an inch. You get there in the end. And I'm just gonna use my circle punch. Just to get my finger hole. Okay, right, sorry about that. So that should now fit. Yes, thank goodness it does. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my pocket there. And I'm just going to glue that to the bottom of the right hand flap of my book. This will be your left hand flap if you're doing it the other way round. Okay. Right, and that's actually the body of your book made. And what we're going to do now is all the fun stuff, which is the decorating it. Okay, so there's our book. Opens up, we've got our little box where we can put our photo mats, and then we've got our little pocket here where we can put photo mats as well, but we'll worry about those in a moment. So what we're going to do now is decorate. Now I said that what I was going to do this time was use 6x6 papers, just so that you didn't need to worry about just using little scraps of paper rather than whole sort of like sheets of 12x12, which you might want to save for something. we're going to have a look at using smaller pieces of paper. So I nipped into my local Hobbycraft, into the clearance section, which is absolutely brilliant in mine, I have to say, and I picked up this Paige Taylor Evans Pink Paisley Pick Me Up, and I think it was something like £3.50, next to nothing. I also picked up some of these die cuts, which I will be using. I have got some colours of embroidery thread, because I've usually got some knocking about here, and I picked up some gems which I've had from a previous class, which I might well use yet, and I've also got some of these which I used on my original book, which are Polaroid sized, just card that I've cut out in a certain size, and then I've just put a square in there, and I've got 2 different sizes of that. Now, if you would like some of these, just let me know, and I will pop you some in the post, because my trusty Scan and Cut will cut all of these out, and I am quite happy to post a few out to people. So if you want some, just let me know, and I will get that done for you. Okay, so just either drop me a line with your address on Messenger. You can either do it to me, who's Cal Summers, or you can do it through either of the 2 business Facebook pages, which is Cal Summers Workshops and Classes, or through the Scrap Lab. It doesn't matter, drop me your address and I'll get some of those in the post to you. My treat. Right, okay, time to get decorating. So, do you remember how cool it used to be in the 80s to have like a dado rail in your front room? Well, that's kind of what we're going to do with this book. So my intention here is to decorate sort of like half and half, or maybe 3/4 and 1/4. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. But what I'm going to do is I am going to take paper, and what I want to do ideally is actually have it the same all the way around. We're going to start with the outside. So I'm going to just choose 2 pieces of paper that I like and that go together quite well. Now, I'm not going to ink the outside of my papers when I do it, but if you want to, feel free. So, trouble, yeah, picking the first one is always the worst. I really like that. It's got gold foil on it as well, so it can't be bad. Not sure how many sheets of each there are. Let's have a look. Ooh, I like those 2 together. Yep. It looks like there's only 1 sheet of that round one. Let's have another look. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. There's not going to be enough of that one. Let me see what else could go with that one. I always think this is the most difficult bit. It's only 1 sheet of quite a lot of these. It's a bit of a pain. Right. What about yellow's nice? Did I see another one of those? That's cute too. Oh God, I can't make my mind up. Let's go for yellow. Yeah, yellow's nice. We don't use enough yellow, I don't think. Right, now when you're matting your book, it's entirely up to you how much space you want to leave around the edge of your pattern paper. It's totally personal choice. Some people like to see quite a lot of the white showing, others not so much. Me, I tend to work on maybe about 1/8 of an inch. So when I measure each of my pieces, I will measure it and just make sure that I've got an 1/8 of an inch gap all the way round. So I am going to cut my first piece. Now that flap there is 1 7/8 of an inch by 8 1/4 inches. So I'm going to have to just jot this down because I'm going to forget. This is why it's always good to have spare pieces of paper. So that was 8 1/4 by 1 7/8. So I am going to cut that at 8 inches by 1 5/8 of an inch. Right, let me cut it before you do. And let's just make sure I'm not going to make a complete and utter mess of it. So my width is 1 5/8 of an inch, so 1 5/8 of an inch. Let's just check that fits. That's no. What am I doing wrong here? One 5/8 of an inch. You know what? Let's just go for 1 3/4. 1 3/4 of an inch. See if that fits. Yep, that's better. Okay, and if that's going to be 8 inches, I'm going to do it at 5 3. So let's go for 5 inches. So that first one there that I'm cutting has been, yeah, 5 inches. So I'm just going to cut that the same width, which I can't even remember what it was now. Oh, 1 3/4 inches. Now, if I cut 3 inches, that should be exactly right, but just for the sake of an overlap, I'm going to cut it at 3 1/4 inch. So let's have a look and see if that fits. So that's going to fit there, and that's going to fit there with a slight overlap. Yep, that works for me. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to put those to one side, and then I'm going to measure here. The space here is 1 and is 3 3/4 of an inch. So let's have a look. 3 3/4 of an inch. And I think I said 3 1/4, so I'm going to cut that at 3 1/4. And that one I'm going to cut at 5 inches by, I can't remember again, was it 3 3/4? Yeah. Oh, that would be low key if you can hear. Let's just have a look, see if that fits. Yeah, might need a little bit of a trim. Yeah, I'm just going to give those a little bit of a trim. So now I'm actually ready to glue those on. As I said, if you want to, you can ink the outside edges of them, but entirely up to you. So I'm going to stick these bottom ones on first. I'll make sure I've got it centered side to side. And I've got a little bit of a gap. And I'm going to take that piece and make sure that I have got it lined up. Okay, and then we're going to do the same on that front flap here as well. So even if you don't have full sheets of paper that are, say, like, you know, A4 or an 8 inches or whatever, you can still use your scraps to make up your book. Okay, make sure that's lined up. There we go. It's the front of the book. Now we're going to do the back. I'm not going to have enough paper to do that unless maybe I go completely the opposite way round and have that longer. Actually, I might just do that. So 8 inches, as you know. The width of the back of the book is 5 1/4 inches. So if I just cut this piece that I've got here at just under 5 1/4, so I'm going to go 5 1/8 of an inch, and then I'm going to check it for size. That's pretty much spot on. I'm going to cut this yellow one at 5 1/8 of an inch. Now I need to know how long that has to be. And I'm going to cut that at 5 3/4 inches. Now yours, you know, might be completely different sizes. You might decide that you want to cover yours all in one piece. You might decide that you're going to cover it, you know, like I said, in completely different denominations. That's entirely up to you. But I'm just showing you how I would use a pack of 6x6 papers. Now, I've just thought, before we glue this down, we actually need to have a think about our binding. Now, I did have, and I've lost already, my colours of embroidery thread, which I'm going to use to bind my book. Now, what I want you to do is you can use ribbon for this, you can use embroidery threads, you can use twine, you know, whatever you fancy really. But I want quite long threads to wrap around my book several times. So I've got 3 colours of thread here. I'm just going to take the papers off them. And this is not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination. I'm going to take my 3 threads. I'm just going to tie a knot in that end there so that they're all together. And then I'm going to decide how long I want them to be. But every so often, every couple of inches or so, what I'm going to do to keep them together is just tie another knot in. Doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It just helps us keep it all tidy. Okay. It makes these threads an awful lot easier to manage. I've got tangles now. Typical. I'm going to want quite a long thread because I want to be able to wrap this around my book several times. Always one bit that gets tangled. Now if you want to, if you've got some charms and things, you can always tie those directly onto your threads as well. That looks quite nice. I did that in my original one. I think I had some butterflies that I used. Just doing it this way just means that our threads are all kept together. I mean, we could plait it, I suppose, but I don't think I've got the energy for that. This pink one is determined to get tangled as possible. Probably not too far off now. Right. Hi, Sue. Right, that's going to do for now. So I'm going to just trim that off. Right. Little piece of double-sided tape is always useful to keep your thread in place. So I'm just going to take a little bit. I'm going to decide where halfway is, roughly about there. I'm going to work out where half of my piece of thread is just by folding it in half like that. And where half is, I'm going to attach that to the middle of my book there. Okay, so now I'm going to take that piece that I did earlier with the glue and just pop that onto my book. And then I'm going to glue this piece on top. Now it might be better if I just move that over slightly so that I haven't got the knots. I'm just going to glue that on. Just open those out a bit. Just make sure that is glued onto the back, holding our thread in place there. Okay. So when we come to fold up our book, can use our thread to just wrap around. Then hold our book in place. Okay, so that's how I'm going to close my book. We all right so far? Okay. Right, so that's the outside decorated. We haven't done any of the fancy stuff yet, but we have actually got the book decorated. But now what we're going to do is the inside. So looking at this again, I think I'll work on roughly the same sort of distance. And I'm going to choose the papers to go on this part of the book. I think I'm going to start on my pocket. So I still really like this one with the gold. So I think that's going to form part of my pocket. And then I think the bottom bit, there was some hearts. They were quite nice. Yep. Or maybe, oh, I like that one. Maybe that one. Right. So what I'm going to do now is measure my pocket, which is 3 3/4 by 3 1/2. So I'll just cut that. So 3 3/4 by 3 1/2, although that probably will need trimming down a little bit. Yeah. Let's see how that fits. Okay, and then I just need to work out again where halfway is. Just going to mark with a pencil. And I'm going to cut out that finger holy punchy thing that we didn't know what they were called. Okay, so that'll fit on there now. Excellent. And what I'm going to do now is measure this bit. Now, a little tip for you. When measuring and thinking about what piece of paper is going to go in here, we actually need to measure slightly longer than the space from the top of the pocket to the top of the book. So I'm going to go for 5 3/4 inches. So we need to cut a piece that is 5 3/4 inches by 3 3/4 inches, but actually it's just slightly less wide. So 3 3/4 inches. So say 3 5/8 of an inch. And already I've forgotten what I said this was. 5 1/2. So say 5 3/4 inches. Okay, and the reason for that will become clear. I'm going to glue that onto the pocket there, but so that I don't have any space showing, this piece actually needs to slip into the pocket there. And be glued down so that we've actually got, you can't see any white space there. So that's going to fit on like that. Okay, I'm just going to trim that down slightly. Okay. I'm going to slot that in there. And just make sure that's centered properly. There we go. And glue that in. So you can see where the pocket is. There's absolutely no doubt that there is paper behind that pocket and we can't see the white of the actual book. Okay, let's just pop that on there. There we go. Okay, so that's our pocket covered. Now I'm going to do the flaps of the book and then the inside flap of the book there. So I can't remember what size we said this was. That was 1 3/4. Right, so choose some paper. I think go for the hearts for the bottom of that one. Let me see if there's 2 sheets of that. I think there are. And I know there's 2 sheets of the butterflies. Actually, I like that one as well. I think for this one, yeah, I'm going to go for the red with the butterflies, I think. So I think it would be nice if in the inside, if all of our lines matched up with this pocket here. So I'm going to make sure that my bottom piece is, hang on, cut at 3 1/4 inches. So let's just, yeah. I'm going to put that blue down first, I think. So 3 1/4 inches by 3 5/8 of an inch. Right, let's see if that fits. It does. I've got to remember to just round my corner. That fits in all right there. Okay. So 3 1/4. Just double check that. 3 1/4 height by 3 5/8 of an inch. And I mustn't forget to round that one. So this piece is let's go for 5 inches by 5 inches by 3 5/8. Okay. 3 5/8 by 5 inches. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to glue those down now. I'll just stick that bigger one down first. Okay, now if you've got border punches and stuff, one of the things that you can do to stop that sort of stark line there, if you wanted to, would be to punch out some borders and stick them on there. You could use stickers, you could use cutter parts from the papers. I know these have got, you know, like borders and things in them. There's a whole load of different things that you can do to decorate it up. Okay. Okay, so that's coming on all right. And now we've just got to decorate this bit here, which I can't remember how wide it was, but I think I've measured it about 10 times. That is 1 7/8 of an inch, so 1 3/4. Actually, I'm just wondering, I think I've got enough of this left. Yeah. Right. Now don't throw away any of your little bits of paper, because what we'll do when we come to actually decorate it is we're going to look at sort of how the decoration flows all the way through. So the bits that we've used here, obviously we haven't used on these bits here. But if we keep our scraps of paper, we can take die cuts or we can punch shapes out, and we can use those to decorate so that you get the flow all the way through. Okay. Right, so you get the gist of it. What I'm going to do now is I am going to decorate the inside of my book here. I'm going to decorate these flaps inside and out, these, and then put some backing on here. So I'm guessing it's tea time. So what I suggest we do is I'm going to switch off for a little bit. I'm going to decorate these bits up, and then I'm going to come back to you when I've got the whole of the book, the base actually just covered and decorated, and then we'll get on to the nice stuff. So it is now, I don't know. Oh, 8:45. So I would suggest if we reconvene here about 9:30, and we'll carry on. Okay, thanks very much for joining me, and I will be back with you in just a moment. Well, I will be if I can figure out how to switch this off. There we go.